So you cover, you hit. Let's talk about water. In the basic movements for water video that we just did, there's the covering action and then the coiling action, or the covering action then the coiling action, basically. It's not hard to see the application for that. It's basically just an uppercut to the chin. So there's the covering of a punch to get on the outside of the opponent, or even on the inside if you're good like that. And then you coil back up, or on the other side, it's the same difference. The thing you're going to hear about water that you need to ignore, maybe it's bad to say that you need to pay careful attention to not do, even though to avoid confusion without insulting anyone, is you do not need to think of water as more fluid than any other element. Just because it's water does not mean it's softer, or it's more flowing, or it is in any way more likely to follow the opponent than any other element. It's the other elements are not harder than water in terms of not more difficult, but harder as in hard hitting something action. Water hits just as hard, and other elements are just as soft. It's not softer. The thing about water is, if you think about a river, you're probably likely to lend yourself to a very flowing, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing kind of action, where you're coiling so much that you forget what you're actually trying to do with this. If you think about pouring water out of a bucket or a cup onto the ground, it does, unless you do it very slowly, it doesn't just pour pretty, if I can use bad grammar like that. It's not a pretty thing to watch, it's messy. And water as an element and as a movement and as an energetic expression in Xing is just as messy as that. It splatters everywhere, it makes a mess, it gets everything wet, and there's not a specific way it has to go to get where it's going. If you were to pour a big bunch of water down the side of a mountain, it could go a number of different directions to get to the bottom. There's not a specific path it has to take to get to where it's going. So you think about if someone was very, very committed to hitting someone right there, then they would do this whole action and maybe hit them right there, but what if they missed? Then they've gone out on over here, and they've coiled the wrong direction. But water can be loose and messy enough to just kind of hit where it needs to hit without forcing it. The thing about water as a physical, like water in a cup kind of element, not the element we're talking about in Xing, but water as a substance, it does what it wants. It takes the shape it wants. You can't force it to do anything. And the same thing is true for using water in Xing, is that it just does what it's gonna do. If you miss where you're going, you miss the chin, maybe you hit with the forearm. If you miss with the forearm, maybe you hit with the elbow. It doesn't have to do it the way you thought it was going to happen when you first started doing it. It can take a different path. You can flow around as long as you have the coiling action from the feet to the fist. Just let it do what it's going to do. So you cover, you hit where you're going to hit. It's basically just an uppercut, but it's not such an overcommitted uppercut that it has to do what you thought it was going to do to begin with. The energetic expression of water lets you be a little creative, lets you kind of wing it as you throw it. And that's a lot fun if you do it, because you don't have to think, I'm going to hit this spot and this spot only. You just kind of, where am I going? And then you find something, and then you go with it. Because you've coiled, and you still have the power there the whole time. Obviously, just like every other element, you wear the opponent like a shirt, you're in, you've made the triangle with your structure, you cover, and then you find it. And this can be a way to find the center of the opponent and then throw them, or do a lot of other nasty things to them. But water kind of searches out, and water goes where it wants to go.